This is what happened. We made a small person out of mud and placed it down there on the table. Just like the gods, heart of sky, we rolled up our sleeves, heart of sea, to get our hands dirty in the stuff of life. But something went wrong. Its neck wouldn't turn. It just stared up at us, a tiny face, with no understanding, a barely pulsating thing. I couldn't think. Like an overcooked vegetable, sodden, mushy, and disfigured. It couldn't worship. A sort of primal gurgle of lamentation. And it dissolved in hot droplets into nothing. There's an old joke about the car made out of wood. Wooden engine and dashboard, wooden wheels. The only problem? It wouldn't start. There's something similar here. You see, we are sustained by language. We are remembered by tongue, are chiselled, framed and shaped in the mouths of our peers. And so we did it again. We made a little person, a wooden effigy, and gave it some words. She crawled briefly before stopping, spoke eloquently until her face dried up into a kind of expressionless, desiccated mask. Her arms and legs turned stiff. An unresponsive little body, rigid and cold. No blood flowed within, no oil or sweat. We remembered stories of similar cases, effigy corpses left to be devoured, mouths and faces ruined and crushed, twig bones snapped, ground up for the dogs. And so we kissed her goodbye and submerged the crumbling husk in an organic and fragrant resin before burning. We inhaled the smoke, smeared the ashes on our arms and chests as the whole of the earth darkened in a thick black rain. And that was that. To remind me of our little wood girl experiment, I keep a single splinter ingrained, a speck I carry with me in the palm of my hand. Ah, my darling wife, we've never been gods. Can't make corn into anything but food. So it took us a fourth attempt. No, I'll not mention the third. For the expected shock. A flush of rose water in the middle of breakfast. We wove our wildflowers into a sun. A filigree of bog cotton, mouse ear, mayweed, bed straw, bitter cress dampened with sea foam, eyebright and yarrow strengthened with dried strips of henequen. And he was born, and lived, and grew.
La ciudad está triste. Las casas están tristes. Las ventanas están tristes. Los fantasmas están tristes. Tus manos están tristes. La luz tenaz y triste. Ya lo he dicho, pero las casas están tristes. Los caballos están tristes. El amor es imperfecto. Hagamos un silencio, por favor. That picture of your mother up there. Her fingers look so fragile and anxious, like they're bubbling over a Ouija board. I'm betting she was a tad wasted, and perhaps about to mutter something kamikaze like, "Fuck this fucking shit." It's like our eyes are jonesing for a cigarette. Pining, if you ask me, for some aviator type to enter the frame, to strike the match that saves her from the dark, aiming for her head. I have a prediction. The mother falls down, but she gets right back up. Then she falls again, but rusticates a season or two in the hinterlands of a comfy guest bedroom, where her children line up outside her door every evening to kiss her goodnight. God, what a picture. May I touch it?
Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome rats outgrabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the Job bird, and shun the frumious Bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand. Long time the manxome foe he sought. So rested he by the tum-tum tree, and stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame came whiffling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through, the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy! Oh, frabjuste, calloo, calais! He chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome rats outgrabe.
As a child, every time it rained for long enough, I used to wonder if the time had come to take up tools and venture out into my father's shed to build the ark. How real, how heartfelt, something. Old Noah in terror of destruction, for days and nights on end, down on his knees, the waters rising in all directions. And those innocent beasts, hoping they might yet become his friends, lining up obediently in pairs, as if that might yet make all the difference, as if that might help them stand out from the rest. Something in it struck a chord in me. I'd gathered frog spawn from a local pool to watch it hatch, a bowl of punctuation. But which of all those wriggling glyphs was I supposed to choose? I'd stood in awe of older lads who came invariably in twos, long after dark, to our backyard, armed with only flashlights and hessian bags, scaling the rusted downpipes without a thought, to lamp the hapless pigeons in their roosts. In the faint light, weeping from their bulbs, how did they choose which to take and breed, and which to lose? Back then, I couldn't walk the full length of the street, but stopped to greet each lonesome dog that stood by patiently to guard the public space. I loved the scut, the whelp, the root, at least as much as any so-called purebred pup. If the choice were mine, I'd populate my ark from the local pound with the rescue mutts, then the one-legged gull from our neighbour's roof, or the half-blind mule, rough as an unstuffed couch, that decades back rested its snout in my palm for a moment and is yet to lift it out. Noah, ever resolve the sleeping arrangements of lions and lambs, of piranhas and whales, or standing on deck as the packed ark at last rose off its blocks to slip out over the waves. Establish the ground rules for woodpeckers, woodlice, woodworm. I've loved the story for a lifetime now, but it seems this best-known version gets it wrong. It's not that Noah saves the animals, but that the animals, as ever, save the man. In times of overwhelming fear, in times of restlessness and strife, the cause that lifts the eye, the mind, the troubled heart, the point of focus in the flooded landscape of our lives.
It hung for a moment in air, an echo, decayed into ambient hush. As the next word was spoken, a noise overlaid on the dwindling moment of meaning, this one word, from this one voice, held in this one room, in front of this one audience, made of many faces and twice the ears open, receptive, tympanic membranes vibrating, simpatico with the song so rapidly expired of firefly in sound, and yet its timbral light lingered in the note, in the color, in the heart of one who unexpectedly opened on its voicing, and now, vulnerable in this room of strangers, unconsciously mourned its passing from air to memory.
the cherry tree. When the cold, colorless months of winter stretched endlessly, I waited for the flowering of the cherry tree like a child counting the days to a birthday. Growing older, the months speeded up, the blossom opening in March scorched by frost or quickly blown from the branches to lie rain-sodden on the lawn. If the tree hadn't towered so huge and unwieldy, I'd have erected a tent to hold back the buds. But, while I shrank, it rose even higher. I was sure the tree would outlive me, sap rising up the trunk long after I was ash. But now, strangled by ivy, it's weakening too. Only this moment is certain, both of us here and alive. A cherry tree flowering, a woman gazing at branches clotted with pink blossom and searching for words.
Sempre caro mi fu quest'ermo colle e questa siepe che da tanta parte dell'ultimo orizzonte il guardo esclude. Ma sedendo e mirando interminati spazi di là da quella e sovrumani silenzi e profondissima quiete, io nel pensier mi fingo, ove per poco il cor non si spaura. E come il vento odo stormir tra queste piante, io quello infinito silenzio a questa voce vo comparando, e mi sovvien l'eterno e le morte stagioni, e la presente e viva, e il suon di lei. Così, tra questa immensità, s'annega il pensier mio, e il naufragar m'è dolce in questo mare.
saying that money's more important than people, and that's not what we're saying. We're saying thinking, assuming everyone else is thinking the same, that it's not. It approaches mid-December. You're saying we have to be out the gap by 9 Jan. We're saying what happens after the gap. Where do you escape to? When you get a blood nose at the price of gas and hear you blow your own trumpet and crack your own laughs. I'm 25, working and dead clear. Haven't missed a week's rent since I got here. Yet you say that it's go time at HQ. Bodies make way for the money to move hands. Might sell within 3 months. 541 took my cue as the law would have me do, and hope to find shelter on the streets. Leave a building empty just to have the world tempt me into hunger, uppers, downers, violence, ill health and crime. And I hold no weather reports, but say February hit hard again, Celsius dipped on the stock exchange, and I died of exposure. I hope there's an oil picture painted of you thrusting a knife into my back, your hand in my pocket, your initials on the charges when they're pressed. You are saying it's okay for any one of us to die today. You live it out and breathe it in, and of course abet it. Clench fists and shout hoarse without it. Take it with your title. And misty whispers to your friends, distasteful jokes and brown paper envelopes. You lock eyes with ground dwellers as you climb a ladder, see them fade smaller and laugh. And praise be to the genius who said, let's let a load of landlords decide the rules for landlords. Same afternoon as he dreamt up the bankers regulate the banks. with me. When all your children say, I'm up for leaving, who's with me? And all your teachers say,
I'm up for leaving, who's with me?
And all your nurses say,
I'm up for leaving, who's with me?
All your workers say, I'm leaving, who's with me? I cannot, will not pay to stop my basic needs being stripped away. We were wrought of flesh and bone, and you are loyal to clay. You won't be there to watch me find a new day. When all your young have left you, and your tap drips to a beat, and quiet creaks about the house that you waste oil to heat, and your vacant stare falls upon the shadows at your feet, when the cold truth hits you that your whole life was a lie, I hope you have the decency to cry.
Maybe it's wrong, but the thought was this: that if the flight should come down and in consequence threaten to be my last day upon this earth, then it'd be wise to ensure I was sat in close proximity to a beautiful woman, or failing that, a beautiful child. Logic being that beauty brings luck, or is luck, and brings salvation, or just somehow averts catastrophe, or maybe it's just that if one is about to rock up in the afterlife, then better by far to arrive in attractive company. Call it exhilarated terror if you like. Yeah, I always have the best excuses. That's because they're not excuses.
The Zone. Goldilocks, I'll have a triple shot polar cap espresso in torrents down these glacial cracks, blackening the flows. Blondie, give me a latte Arctic with civet shit beans swirling up from grounds filtered through baleen teeth. I'll have an Antarctic macchiato, a sprinkle of synthetic penguin, several brown seal sugar. Make it, Goldilocks, make it, love. Make the lid a tiny landscape, breathed upon by morning mouths. Make it a pristine plastic expanse, a burrow hole on a drift, just for me to guzzle through. Where something is sleeping, baby, curled up white, whipped cream, marshmallow, pink, nose, a frappe mammalian dream, to wake up and smell it, Goldilocks, make it, make it.
Fridays were pencil sharpening. Like a bus conductor's ticket machine clamped on the teacher's desk, that squeeze to uncurtain the cavity. Insert a stub, then turn the lever with a whir until out came a skin pastry skirt, the point attack. All the pencils in the pot, uniform, striped, red and black. Our pencils were oddments drawn from Argos and Mum's work. Spelling nights, Dad would shear the carving knife with a steel. Once, twice, a third to set the edge. Then, slicing forwards, peel a pencil like a pear. He'd blow the ice pick tip and jab his thumb to test for firmness. Then, above the whiteness, he'd excite the air with tiny circles. I imagined words like daughter, sharpen, write.
Disorderly Lily, or Poem Letter to my Orderly Lily, whom I sometimes refer to as my disorderly Lily because of the condition we find ourselves in. Dear Lily, this is what you might call a pebble beach. I don't know why I thought that would sound funny. It's just what it is. It was West Dorset, after all. I tried to think of a pun involving pebbles and the concept of rock bottom, but nothing came to mind, so instead I said nothing and just let the words hang there, in the air, making everyone feel awkward and weird about me, until one of you intervened and said, "Let's all go for lunch at the Anchor Inn," and I knew that included me, too, albeit reluctantly. I had talked a lot about pigeons recently, in what I guess was an attempt to make me seem more interesting. I don't have any of those friends who call me darling, in that way people here in Bristol say darling or love to each other. So I thought that frequently invoking the feetless pigeons of Temple Mead Station might somehow, by association, make me seem worthy of care or attention or even love. But of course it doesn't. It just leads me down a path where I'm explaining to blank and pitiful eyes that pigeon shit is as harmful to masonry as it is to the pigeon's own feet, and that standing in their own excrement is what makes them look that way, like they've been to the wars. There's just no knowing why they do that. And then that my dad has Alzheimer's, as if that would somehow save me. Fucking potato head. Potato head fucker. Fuck. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to lash out like that. This is what you start to sound like after a while, when you're that guy, the one who starts sentences by saying he doesn't mean to be that guy, and then is. You get used to talking to yourself, so anything kind of goes. Kind of. Sometimes I wish there was a mute button, or a way to just rewind and delete everything I did. Like that overgrown cemetery in Clifton, where you can hardly glean the writing on the stones, where the graves compete with abandoned shopping trolleys for the attention of workers on their lunch break. You know that feeling? I think someone once said that people who commit suicide don't really want to cop it. They just want to go back in time to a place before, where they felt differently, like those last days of winter in Victoria Park, when we sat on that bench and ate Jaffa cakes and mocked the Capoeira kids, before the Capoeira kids were locked up inside like everyone else, and North Street closed and Southville went cold, just like you did after I pointed out that you always wore low cuts for our appointments. And could that just be coincidence? Well, anyway, maybe it's true, I don't know. About suicides, I mean. Right now, I just really don't want to be in West Bay, around you or any of those people and all those asthma-inducing cliff edges. I'm sorry, this really makes things awkward, doesn't it? I shouldn't have brought up any of that. I made a word map of words I would use if I didn't know what to write to you. Sort of like a list of icebreakers, I guess, that someone might take with them to a date. But this isn't a date, obviously. I hope you didn't think I thought this is a date. I mean that I was asking you out. I know you don't. I know that's inappropriate. Here are some of the words I wrote. Chase, faceless, and silt. I don't know why I wrote that last one. I think it's because I cross the Avon every day and see bicycles buried in the silt along Coronation Road. I also wrote the word macroeconomics. I wasn't going to say that one because I don't really know what macroeconomics is, but it would be kind of dishonest, I guess. I mean, now that I started talking about it, it would be dishonest not to mention it. I wish you wanted to see me even when you didn't have to. Sincerely, C. Puchkin.
Is piok fuacht na fríde ón ór airí madin ná bí bortha fún a chara tá kistan lán go béal lán de rán is im is dan an banne ina hí mille broke leis fáine drithlí líche bio corcra gorum an ngás chahis glasarí scapas smút sive císte te I dasca lo Yena snéis de gráine piobar blacní blasta os machor Yenis téver corcán irin an sin Chas Galacon on Ivapon Hit Salin Kopog Lishnachta Lasmo Via Skamalach Ongal Fuyere Lake Sheet Id Reg Id Or Higme Lagme on Plata Anuis Idir fork agus scín ach ní raibh blasagam as Creach an cirasór san air mar bhreat
Good afternoon from a very a wintry Cork City, or good morning, depending on where you're viewing from today. I hope you enjoyed the 30 films in this year's shortlist. My name is Paul Casey. I'm the director of the Winter Warmer Festival and the Poetry Film Competition. And I am delighted to be announcing this year's winner of the competition. The shortlist of 30 films was chosen from 184 submissions received from 122 filmmakers in 32 countries. And the shortlist itself represents 13 of those 32 countries, being Canada, Ireland, the Isle of Man, Italy, Japan, Mexico, Peru, Romania, Spain, Sweden, the Netherlands, the UK, and the USA. So as promised, this year's judges, myself and Paula Kehoe, have selected one winner to receive the Ó Bhéal Award for Best Poetry Film, which is designed by glass artist Michael Ray. And so it gives me great pleasure to announce this year's winner, What I Fear Most is Becoming a Poet, created by Janet Lees from the Isle of Man, made from the poem by Katerina Gogu. And I have a statement from my co-judge, Paula Kehoe, and then one from myself. Paula writes, "There were so many beautiful film poems entered into the competition. I loved watching every single one of them and appreciated all of the work, the imagination and innovation that went into making them. In the end, the piece, What I Fear Most is Becoming a Poet, stood out as a stunning example of film poetry as a unique art form. Janet Lees has created a powerful visual rendering of Katerina Gogu's poem. I was both floored and inspired by it. Coardigus ochri." And my own, What I Fear Most is Becoming a Poet, is such an evocative and moving piece. Gogu's poem, enormous in itself, which speaks so intimately about the poet's world of peril and uncertainty, met with the filigreed balance of soft piano and perfectly paced typography, the haunting and completely captivating visuals, the almost hesitant text in places, and the very absence of voice, bringing us so much closer to the poet's inner sanctum. All just superbly done, an absolutely brilliant film, and a very worthy winner. So once more, congratulations to Janet Lees. Your award will be on its way to you very shortly. And we're now going to watch Janet's film one more time.